Should we break up the tech giants? The Democrats' big plan for Biden, no holds barred, so to speak. On Capitol Hill, life next to Junkies Alley here in NYC, and how the left plans to ruin your suburb. Welcome, everybody, to the Buck Sexton Show. Honored to have you here with me, as always. My, oh my, we are in it now, aren't we? The presidential election getting closer every day, and we're actually going to have to talk about this now. The news media has been so busy with their Make America Miserable Again campaign, terrifying everyone constantly, engaged in all kinds of fear-mongering, that there's been such a lack of focus, really, on the actual presidential election and the campaigns. We will get to all that and more. But first, I want to talk about what's going on today on Capitol Hill, because this matters a whole lot when it comes to the election. It matters a whole lot when it comes to everything in our lives right now that touch on the commercial, the political, economic. You have the four biggest tech CEOs in the game right now. Sorry, Elon, not quite at that same level. You have these four tech CEOs, Bezos, Musk, Pichai, and Zuckerberg. I'm sorry, Bezos, Cook. See, Elon got in my head. Bezos, Cook, Pichai, and Zuckerberg. Facebook, Google, Apple, and Amazon, respectively. And for a lot of folks, I understand this. They hear, oh, big tech and monopolies, and what companies, really, think about this, have a bigger influence right now on your life? Start at that proposition. I think about my own day and how much of what I find is based on Google. You know, if I wanted to buy racket strings yesterday, right? So I went on Google, find the best place for racket strings. And then I ended up saying, well, hold on a second. Maybe I'll get a better price and get it more quickly at Amazon. So then I go on Amazon. And I'm probably going to go on Facebook when I get my new racket strings and, show, hey, look at me with my new stuff, my new gear out on the court. Tennis is a real sport. Don't give me all that. I know what some of you are thinking. I like tennis. So here, at some point I'll turn into a golfer, and then you can all give me crap for that. So we see these companies having such a massive outsized influence on our lives. And we also know something else about them. They are as left-wing as the faculty lounge of PCU, Politically Correct University. If you haven't seen the movie, I highly recommend it. They are absolutely devoted to the evangelizing project of the left to make America a more progressive place. Silicon Valley is really the only area of the country I can think of that I would agree is probably more liberal in its culture, more left-wing in its approach to life than where I am here in New York City or even Washington, D.C. So Silicon Valley is swampier than the swamp. And they are influencing so many things in your day-to-day lives. And we could talk about all the different ways that they are stifling competition and how they're acting as monopolies now, and especially for the information platforms like Facebook and Google. With Apple's a little harder for me because there's a lot of people that make a whole lot of electronics products, and I look, I tell you my biases. I share them with you openly so you know where I'm coming from. I like Apple products a whole lot. I think they're pretty great. So that one for me, but they'll talk about the App Store and what gets elevated. Look, I know, for example, I'm in the podcast business as well as the radio business. And what gets shown to people in the Apple Store when it comes to politics matters a whole lot. Discovery is critical. So Apple has its own little version of Google within its ecosystem for what podcasts get listened to. And this is part of why you have so many left-wing podcasts. You say, this is a crappy podcast, and this person has no audience outside of their podcast, but they are, the top of the Apple Store and the Apple 100, whatever it may be. And they'll say, well, look, this person gets so many downloads. But yeah, have they been the featured podcast this whole time? And you may say, Buck, I don't podcast. That's your problem, not my problem. Yeah, but this is all about information dissemination. Why do you think the wokeness has taken over our culture? Why is the NFL, why is the MLB overrun with wokeness? NBA overrun with this virtue signaling, left-wing anti-Americanism because of the dominance within the culture. How do you get to cultural dominance? Control the means of production, to take this into a Marxist lexicon, the means of production of ideas. They know this. They understand how important this is. And that's why we've had, leaks and people who have come forward and whether it's, surreptitiously acquired audio or emails, we see that within these big tech conglomerates, the story had been for years. Oh, it's just an algorithm. Oh, there's no bias in any of this. That's a lie. That's a lie, right? We know that there are people working in these companies who are able to subjectively put their thumb on the scale for one side, and they do, and it is always for the libs. This is why conservatives get banned. This is why conservatives are constantly fighting with these platforms. This is why I've said we've got to build our own platforms, at least as a safe haven from this nonsense, at least as an alternative. And this is why I'm on Parler as well as on Twitter. This is why I'm telling you, Instagram, Facebook. One thing I've learned in business is that if you're gonna have a boss, it's great to have, or it's better if you can, to have many bosses. Certainly in the media business, because then you're reaching more audience, but also no one has total control over what you're doing. And the same thing is true about us as individuals with our social media. Better to have multiple platforms going all at once so that you can share your ideas. Any single one of you listening to this show right now has the ability to put forward a meme or just write a quote on your Facebook page that could go viral and that could end up, and you've seen this happen, retweeted by the president of the United States to 80 million followers. Any single person listening to this, and this is true. I'm not just blowing smoke here. It's true. So the power of these platforms is immense for every individual listening to this show right now. People ask me, they say, hey, Buck, how can I help? You know what's one way you can help? Make awesome memes, tag me, send them to me, tell me, hey, Buck, share this. And I'll say, this is from so-and-so, and we'll put it out there. Any one of you can do that if you're so inclined. Now, I know a lot of you are like, Buck, I got a family and kids, and I got things I got to do. Well, that's why I'm here presenting you with content. But if anybody wants to get in that game, they can. And it's different than it was in the late 90s where, I'm going to start a blog, and I will have 2 friends who read it. No. The moment you put it out there on this platform, it's in the marketplace of ideas. The problem we have with the libs is that they are cheating in that marketplace constantly. And now I saw the explanation or the testimony of Jeff Bezos, who does have a pretty interesting life story, I will say. And to call him a success story is obviously a tremendous understatement. He's the richest guy in the world. All right, he's the richest dude on planet Earth. It was pretty amazing when you think about it. And his company, and I will say this, I think I probably personally buy, 50 or 60% of all the objects that aren't food that I buy probably come to me via Amazon. So that influences your thinking, right? It's so convenient. It shows up so quickly. I type in, give me the thingamabob that I need to do the thing over the fridge. And they're like, oh, you mean the who's a what's it? And I'm like, yes, that's perfect. Thank you, Amazon. And it shows up at my door. Sometimes in a day. It's that you get addicted to that convenience. Just like we've become addicted to the convenience of Google. We've become addicted to the convenience of Amazon and the constant connectivity of Facebook and just the seamlessness and the reliability of the software and the hardware from Apple, right? Now, there's a lot of good these companies have done in terms of their products, which is why they are really the most powerful companies on planet Earth right now. They are. I don't think you can find a company that is more powerful than these tech companies. And that's reflected not just in how wealthy the people running them have become, but in their influence in the culture. But here's the thing. The libs obviously don't want the same kinds of regulations that exist elsewhere in media. They want the playing field tilted toward them. And so they've adopted this line, which is a lie, that, oh, the platforms don't have a bias. And that has become increasingly difficult. That's now just gaslighting. It's very challenging for them to continue with that because we turn around and say, well, what about this case? What about this case? Donald Trump Jr. just got suspended from Twitter for retweeting something that's completely in the current news discourse about hydroxychloroquine. How do we change this? How does this shift? Oh, they promise us that they will make it better. They promise us that they will make this better. And then they don't, right? Oh, no, there's no bias. This is just what we have gone through this cycle. Let's learn from history. Gone through this cycle with the mainstream media. And we were late figuring it out as a people, and the American people, those who have their eyes open, that ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, New York Times, Washington Post, these are propaganda outlets for the Democrat Party. They might as well be paid by the DNC. That is the truth. And here we are having this hearing on Capitol Hill where we'll be told, oh, there's no bias. Oh, this is all just fine. My friends, we're going into an election cycle right now. We're going into the height of the presidential election right now. And there are so many ways that these tech giants, and Google and Facebook, when it comes to the politics, are the most obvious in this, although Amazon owns the Washington Post, and there's a lot of stuff that goes on there too. But there are so many ways that they will be able to skew perception, and they only have to do it just a little bit. Just the smallest hand on the dial at Google could perhaps turn a state blue. And we know this because the Democrats have also been telling us for years now, because they're insane, that with Russia collusion, Trump effectively stole the election. That was, what, $100,000 of Facebook ads by a bunch of Russians, acting like bozos online. That's right. That is the story. That, oh, they cheated in the election. Oh, they were going to change the election. What do you think has more influence? A random person spending $100,000 on Facebook, or this random group, I should say, in Russia spending that money, which is the equivalent of pouring a cup of water from your sink in the ocean and saying you've changed the temperature, or the company that is in charge of all of the ad accounts, all of what goes, that can shadow ban, that can do all these use all these tools, and you have no transparency, no accountability for this whatsoever, and is clearly devoted top to bottom with the ethos of its as a company, with the political leanings of the people that work there. It couldn't be any more obvious. These are effectively organs of the Biden campaign, right? Now, they can't be open about that because then they'd be too clearly in the crosshairs for regulation. So what do? They say, oh, we're not a publisher, we're a platform. Does the phone company drop calls that come from, Republican fundraisers? No, they do not. The phone company is a platform. Facebook is not a platform. Facebook is a mega publisher. Google is not just a search engine. Google is an editorial machine. Everything it does, there's an editorial bent, an editorial decision made. They should be subject to the same rules and regulations as any other media and information entity. Or we should just get rid of all regulation altogether and stop pretending that there's any need for regulation. That's where we are on all this, my friends. That's the truth. I can't believe we're being evicted from our home that we didn't even sell. That's what Deborah said when she found out that she was the victim of home title theft. This is a crime that can actually cost you your home. You see, your home's title's online, where the bad guys, the cyber thieves, find it, and then they forge your signature stating that you sold your home to them. In Deborah's case, she didn't even find out about this until the eviction notice arrived. The only trusted folks to protect you from this are at Home Title Lock. Your home's legal title can be protected by a virtual barrier if you go with Home Title Lock. That's what they do. They will instantly mobilize to stop thieves from stealing your home's title and a lot of cash from you. So go to HomeTitleLock.com and register your home's address to see if you're a victim and don't know it. Use code BUCK for 30 free days of protection. That's code BUCK at HomeTitleLock.com. Again, go to HomeTitleLock.com. Use code BUCK. Oh, it was quite a day yesterday on Capitol Hill. We were just talking about the testimony from these tech giants. And look, I think there's going to be a lot of noise, a lot of, oh, gosh, you know, I'm a Republican and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. Trump is tweeting out that he's going to do executive orders on that. Now, that may be helpful, but remember, that executive order could end up lasting a total of, I don't know, 4 months. Less, depends on when Trump does it. So we do need to remember that executive orders are less durable even than legislation. So with that in mind, I can't get that excited about people saying, "Oh, we're gonna regulate," or we'll see. It's starting to be a little bit like Lindsey Graham with, "I'm gonna get to the bottom of Russia collusion. I'm gonna be on Fox News tonight. I'm gonna get to the bottom of it," Lindsey Graham says, and then we go, "Okay, Lindsey, we're still waiting for that. How's that coming along?" You know, it's great for the Fox News talking points, though. So then there's the hearings that happened yesterday with Attorney General Barr, and this stuff was incredible. We talked about some of it yesterday. I played a little bit of it for you yesterday, but the biggest thing you have to remember is just how utterly and completely disrespectful they were to the Attorney General. And look, I know there's partisanship here, and I'm not expecting them to be nice to Barr. I'm not expecting them to do anything that would show that they are favorable toward him. But I do think that it's fair to expect that they treat him with the same basic dignity that they would treat anyone who shows up there. And if you thought that, you would be wrong. I mean, here's Barr is a senior citizen, okay? The guy's doing this just because he wants to help his country. He is rich. He is established. He's already been attorney general. This is actually who you want. If you want the equivalent of Cincinnatus, the Roman general, for attorney general, you want someone like Bill Barr, because he shows up and he's like, I'm just going to do the job the way it should be done. I'm not angling for my deal with Simon & Schuster. I'm not looking to get a Fox News contract as soon as, or, CNN contract or MSNBC, whatever. I'm not looking to do that as soon as I get out of here. I'm looking to be the best attorney general possible. And he's very effective. So for those two reasons, he's honorable and he's effective. Democrats loathe him. I mean, they absolutely hate him. And to the point where it's almost comical. I mean, it's nasty, but it's funny at the same time. Here is the Attorney General. It is known that when a witness says, "Can I have a break?" It's like when a kid is in school and says, I need a bathroom break. Imagine if you're in school and the teacher, you say, "I got to go to the bathroom." The teacher goes, "No, not allowed." That's pretty much what happened to the Attorney General of the United States yesterday. For a moment. I mean, they did relent. I'm not trying to overstate this. Play clip 1.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, could we take a 5-minute break?
Dean is recognized.
Could we take a 5-minute break, Mr. Chairman?
No.
That's a common courtesy,
Dean is
Mr. Chairman,
recognized.
of every witness.
I waited 45, an hour for you this morning. I haven't had lunch. I'd like to take a 5-minute break.
Mr. Attorney General, we are almost finished. We're going to be finished in a few minutes. Otherwise, we can certainly take a break, but
You're class act.
okay.
Yeah.
After this, if you still want, we'll have a break.
No, he wants a break now.
You want it now?
And you just mentioned
Committee-
rudeness.
committee
I think
will
we're
stand-
seeing it on display. Let's let
committee
the
will
Attorney
stand
General
in
have a
recess.
break.
Committee will stand in recess now.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I love what he says. You're a real class act. Yeah, Jerry Nadler, a.k.a. the worst. The worst. But at least in the end, he did have to relent and let the Attorney General get some water and use the restroom after hours of shouting at him like morons, because that's what the Democrats in Congress are. Oh, just how rude were they to the second-time Attorney General of the United States, Bill Barr? Here's a fantastic supercut to let you know that all Democrats think they have to say is, I reclaim my time. I reclaim my time. And they get to make any accusation they want, badger a witness, not let him respond, and just keep on going. I mean, it was appalling, kind of hilarious because it was so appalling. Here they go. Play clip 4.
Isn't that correct?
No. What is correct is that, what is corrected on February 10th, Monday, I gave instructions as to what
Reclaiming my time.
Yeah, I'm answering your question.
Well, you got to let him answer.
Reclaiming my time.
On February 10th,
Sir.
On February 10th, I directed.
Reclaiming my time, sir. Reclaiming my time. And I know you don't want to answer.
You are wrong, Mr. Attorney General. He's found the investigation had been initiated properly.
He said he found
reclaiming my time without political bias.
He said he
and
found
in
no
April,
evidence.
reclaiming my time, reclaiming my time, reclaiming my time
without any remedy at all.
I'm reclaiming my time.
When people resist law enforcement, they're not peaceful.
Reclaiming my time. I'm surprised at your lack of respect.
Gentleman does not have time.
I don't want the time. I want the Attorney General to be able to have enough time to respond to accusations and questions asked him, and you guys not cut him off.
What you want is irrelevant.
Do you have anything you want to say in response to the speeches that have been given by the other side, and then you've been cut off?
Yeah, well, let's on Lafayette.
The gentleman's time has expired.
The gentleman's time is expired. They didn't give him any time. They didn't give it. They're just, you're an evil traitor, Russia collusion, Trump stooge, blah, blah, blah. What do you think about that? Oh, I reclaim my time. Oh, I reclaim my time. That's what they said. That's what they were doing. It was like being back on CNN back in the day. Oh, excuse me, conservative commentator Buck Sexton. So Trump has a supporter who tweeted this racist thing. What do you think about this racist thing? Well, up. Let's go over to Van Jones. Van Jones, talk to us about why the Republicans are so racist and evil. I'm like, wait. I thought we were in the trust tree. I thought we were in the nest. Nope, we were not. We were at CNN. We were at CNN. It was the opposite of the trust tree, whatever that is. But there were some important moments, too. I mean, the thing that everybody was focused on was just how deranged the Democrats were. That's not new. It may make it into the news, but it's not new. There were two really powerful moments from the hearing that go right to the heart of what's happening in this country every day and why the Democrats cannot be trusted and the Democrats need to be kept away from power. We need to do everything possible to keep them away from power. This is when Bill Barr finally did get to speak for a moment. He talked about the protests, quote unquote, which are riots, which are assaults, which are domestic terrorism going on in Seattle and Portland. I mean, remember, they're blinding police officers now. You're not seeing that blasted out all over the news site, all of the news organizations. They're trying to intentionally blind cops. If someone tried to blind me and I had to kill them to stop them from doing it, I would not feel badly. I'm not going to go blind because someone is a moron who thinks they're fighting some revolution against the United States. If I had to use lethal force to defend myself from someone blinding me with a laser, I would do that, and I would not feel guilty about it for a second. In fact, I'd say, I'm glad I had the ability to use the lethal force. And if they took me into court for it, I'm sorry, not going blind. They are blinding police officers on purpose, trying to, and they may have already succeeded. Think about what that would be like for you, for your family. Oh, but they're just protesters. That's a lie. And the scum at CNN and MSNBC who play these games, mostly peaceful protests. We don't like the violence, but, we're not going to condemn it. They should be ashamed of themselves, but they have no shame. They are, by their very nature, by their character, shameless. Attorney General Barr was able to at least tell the country what's happening in Portland specifically. Play clip 2.
In the wake of George Floyd's death, violent rioters and anarchists have hijacked legitimate protests to wreak senseless havoc and destruction on innocent victims. The current situation in Portland is a telling example. Every night for the past 2 months, A mob of hundreds of rioters have laid siege to the federal courthouse and other nearby federal property. The rioters have come equipped for fight, armed with powerful slingshots, tasers, sledgehammers, saws, knives, rifles, and explosive devices. Inside the courthouse are a relatively small number of federal law enforcement personnel charged with a defensive mission to protect the courthouse. What unfolds nightly around the courthouse cannot reasonably be called protest. It is, by any objective measure, an assault on the government of the United States. As elected officials of the federal government, every member of this committee, regardless of your political views or your feelings about the Trump administration, should condemn violence against federal officers and the destruction of federal property.
What occurs nightly around the courthouse cannot be reasonably called a protest by any objective measure. It is an assault on the government of the United States. You see, the left, the libs, the Democrats, they think that they have a right to do that. They believe that they have the right to assault the government of the United States when Donald Trump is the president. They think this is fully justified. They've been doing this in different ways for years. And there is no principle that they are trying to protect in any of this. This is about the relentless pursuit of power. The Attorney General making this point so that everybody could hear these are not protests. We are in an era now where you have more ability than ever to have your voice heard, to spread your information, to spread your message. Now, of course, we're talking about tech giants and the way that they restrict that. They don't restrict it for libs. You want to be a crazy Antifa loon and say America should be socialist and we should all listen to AOC, abolish the police, Green New Deal. You want to be that monumentally stupid. You can go for it. Spread it all over the place. Have all your buddies click like and share it around and all that stuff. What's with the attacking a courthouse? Why do that? Because it is a transfer of power. It changes the perception that the federal government under Donald Trump is a legitimate governing body. That's what they are doing. That is the purpose of the theatrics here and the reason for the violence, the reason for the destruction. And I'm glad the Attorney General was able to tell America, when he wasn't being interrupted, to tell America about that. That's telling. People who are talking about these protests and, the moms in Portland defending people. It's very straightforward. Protesters who don't do illegal crap and try to hurt people or destroy things can do, no one stops them. Oh, I'm sorry. I take that back. If they're protesting unconstitutional lockdowns, then governors will send cops in and then they'll be threatened and face, because their First Amendment rights don't count. You gotta keep locking down forever. But if you're a Democrat stooge, then yeah, of course, you can do whatever you want. You get out there, protest, be as loud as you want. But the law is the law. It either applies to all of us or it doesn't. You either get in trouble for defacing federal property, or no one should get in trouble for defacing federal property, right? I don't want to live in a two-tiered justice system. That was the primary message at the start of the hearing, going into the hearing, from the Attorney General about why he even took the job. We live in a two-tiered justice system now in this country. We need to set it right. Libs are so sanctimonious and delusional and emotionally unstable and self-righteous that they really think the laws don't apply to them. Not when it comes to protest, not when it comes to abuse of power, not when it comes to corruption. Oh, no. Doesn't apply to them. Just like we see with the lockdowns. You wear a mask and social distance and don't have a job or else. But, fancy libs, they'll break the rules when and how they see fit and expect there to be no consequences to it. But there was really, in some ways, an equally, and you could argue even more troubling exchange that goes to the heart of all of this. And I often tell you about the mass psychosis, the delusion of the Democrats in the Trump era, and how just incredibly, really unhinged and vicious they are about this. And I'm somebody who, I've grown up around Democrats. I live in a Democrat city. I have seen this change. There is nothing like what we are in the middle of now. There is nothing like this before in my lifetime, certainly in American politics, where if you vote Republican, if you support the president of the United States, you are a target for destruction and humiliation. It doesn't matter if you're a public person or not. They just can't help themselves. They have truly lost it. And there's no sense, overriding sense of honor, of decency, of kindness. I know that word people laugh at when you say it in the context of politics, but you know, I go hard at the Democrats and at the left on Twitter, and I do make fun of politicians, but I do have limits. First of all, I don't go after civilians. You know, I'm not mocking people and trying to humiliate individuals ever. And I also try to keep it on the issues. I also try to keep it about what the arguments are, you know, and not going, I certainly don't do the things that libs always do, you know, make fun of people's appearance, make fun of their name, make fun of their family. I mean, the libs do this constantly. It's just a part of their political culture now. You know, you're ugly, you're the worst, you know, no one likes you. I mean, they really try to go after people in a way that is disgusting. And you might say, well, that's just social media and people act like maniacs on it. But no, it's representative of the way that political party views its mission and its goal, which is scorched earth, stop at nothing. And there's no sense of mercy, of fair play, of decency that comes into this. Whatever it takes to win, whoever gets destroyed, we don't care. That is their approach, which is why Donald Trump was such a breath of fresh air for so many of us, because he came in and said, no, not going to let you do this. Not going to let you humiliate me. Not going to bend the knee like some wimp like Mitt Romney. Not going to do it. Here is an exchange between the Attorney General and a sitting member of Congress. Now, let's understand this. He's a member of Congress from Georgia. Let's understand that their theory is that the Attorney General interceded on behalf of Roger Stone because he's Trump's buddy. That's the theory, and they all believe this. The Attorney General, the entirety of the Roger Stone prosecution, which only happened because of a sham investigation, but you know he did mislead the investigators. The Attorney General said it was a righteous prosecution. You cannot lie to investigators. The problem was just, why would you send this guy to prison for twice as long as anybody else under the same circumstances? He wasn't getting special positive treatment within the DOJ because of his ties to Trump. He was getting special negative treatment. They were making an example out of him, out of Roger Stone, because of his connection to Trump. And look at the way this exchange actually happens, or listen to the way it does when the Attorney General just asks a question that just a normal, rational, reasonable person would want an answer to. Play clip 8.
You think the American people don't understand that you were carrying out Trump's?
I was not. I had not discussed my sentencing recommendation with anyone at the White House or anyone outside the department.
Wanted you to do, and that's what you did.
No.
Attorney
let me ask you, do you think it's fair? Do you think it is fair for a 67-year-old man to be sent to prison for 7 to 9 years?
It was in accordance with the sentencing.
No, it was not.
Notice this congressman. Yeah, that's right. It was in accordance with, send Roger Stone. I don't give a crap what the guidelines say. And as the Attorney General points out, they actually weren't it was way above the guidelines. For the record, this guy questioning him was not impressive, to say the least. One of the least capable of all the questioners among the Democrats, which is really saying something. I mean, you got Eric Swalwell with his IQ probably somewhere in the mid 80s. You look at this issue and you say, how could anyone think that sending Roger Stone, a 67-year-old man, to prison for 7 to 9 years for a nonviolent crime where there's really it's a process crime. It didn't stop anything from happening. It didn't hurt anyone. It didn't do anything. It was essentially just showing disrespect to the Mueller probe, which, while technically you can't do, I totally understand why he did it. I wouldn't have lied, but I would have told them to blank themselves whenever I got the opportunity. But But the Democrats won't even admit that. No, they wanted Roger Stone to go to prison for up to 9 years, federal prison. Very good chance that he might end up dying in federal prison if that happened. Because of what? Because he lied to the Mueller investigators about some. Bill Clinton lied under oath. He didn't even get charged, folks. Right? We all know that. I mean, the double standards here are so blaring that it's stunning. But see, there's a viciousness. There is a sadism that Democrats have brought into politics now. They want people to suffer. They want you to be ruined because they are so ruthless in their desire for power because they've rejected, let's just be honest, I mean, they've rejected traditional Judeo-Christian morality. They've rejected the vision of the founders. They've rejected all of these anchors to decency, commonality, and unity because they want to be in charge. Oh, this is great. I didn't know this. Producer Nick told me this just now, and we checked it out. It's true. So that was Hank Johnson, who wanted Roger Stone to go to prison for perhaps the rest of his natural life, which is just a stupid and vicious position. But that's one the Democrats hold. Hank Johnson's also the guy who said during a House Armed Services Committee meeting, as he was questioning Admiral Robert Willard, this was some years back. I think it was maybe 20, I don't know. It was some years ago. And he said, this is Hank Johnson, my fear, this is about the impact of U.S. troops on the island of Guam. Hank Johnson asked, quote, my fear is that the whole island will become so overpopulated that it will tip over and capsize. He said, that's the guy who's asking the attorney. That's the guy who's asking the attorney general questions. Going, in a battle of wits, Hank Johnson and Bill Barr. Oh, yeah.